And we are live. Welcome everybody to kind of new and improved. It's different now. TDJShow is no longer, but for now it is. We're looking for a new name because Dom and I decided that we talk mainly football on the channel already, and we always have something Steelers related. So as of now, this is officially a Steelers podcast. So we will be looking for a new name. Just got to figure that out. But we got a Steelers podcast. Dom, how we feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling a lot better about this podcast. I feel like it's going to be a lot better than the old one. We're going to be able to discuss more, talk about Steelers more. It's going to be new and improved. I feel like it's going to be a lot better.
Yes, it will. All right. So today we are talking about the first week in free agency for the Steelers. An eventful one at that. They've opened the pocketbook. They had a top 10 salary cap that they could spend coming in to free agency, and they've opened up the checkbook. And some of the deals have shocked me because I know that's not their thing. But all right, let's get into it. So first, we're going to start with the re-signs that they had. So we'll start with Miles Killebrew, the special team specialist that we have, one of the best in the league. He had 2 blocked punts on the year. He resigns on a 2-year, $4 million contract. How are we feeling about that one? I like this one a lot.
I think it was good because he came off with one of the best special team seasons in a long while we've seen from the Steelers. I mean, what do you say? You had two blocked punts this season.
Yeah,
like that's pretty solid numbers. And he's a good. What position does Killebrew play? Isn't he a defenseman?
He's a safety.
Safety.
Yes.
Yeah, he had a really good special team season. I think that was a pretty good contract, and we signed him for cheap too.
I like that one a lot. Dwayne Haskins is on a $2.54 million tender. He was a restricted free agent. So right now, currently, we have 3 quarterbacks on the roster. They kept Dwayne, have Mason, and we'll get to that signing later. I don't mind it.
Honestly, I think that's pretty good because we give Dwayne more time to develop. I mean, he may not start, but at least we could develop him before he goes somewhere else eventually.
I don't mind this in the fact of is last year he caught Tomlin's eye.
He must have done something good.
He must have done something good. So he must have done something that he didn't do in Washington, that he did in Pittsburgh, and for it to catch Tomlin's eye, that's the thing I'm excited about.
It's going to be I'm going to say this right now. I know we haven't talked about it yet, but I think that this is going to be a new season. I think Steelers fans should be excited. Everyone's like, "Oh, we have Mitch as our quarterback. It's going to be a bad season." Honestly, I think we should look up to something different. Yeah. We have something to look up to rather than look down to because this is Mitch's comeback season, right? Yeah. He was on the Bears under bad coaching.
And it's not like he was horrible, too. And we'll get to this later. Deshaun Watson, all right, got traded to the Browns. Mitchell Trubisky has a better record than Deshaun Watson. The only argument you can make is Deshaun Watson was on the Texans. That's the only argument it can make.
Uh-huh.
But even still, Deshaun Watson had DeAndre Hopkins. He had a decent defense with J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu was in Houston at one point. You really can't argue that. We'll get to that. I will say in his last year that he had with Houston, it wasn't the greatest. They finished bottom in the division. But Deshaun was still good enough. I mean, he led the league in passing yards that year. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that one. Arthur Merlette, cornerback depth. He signs on a 2-year deal. I do feel like he got burnt sometimes last year.
He had some nice hits on the season, though.
Yeah, I'm hoping he builds on what he did last year. Maybe not getting burnt in coverage as much, but I hope he builds on what he did last year. The Steelers tendered Marcus Allen, Robert Spillane, so linebacker and safety depth yet again. Spillane had a down year after coming off.
he had a lot of nice stops. He was like one of our run defense guys, I think.
Yeah, he was.
So he'd always be the one guy in the middle looking for runs.
Yeah, and Devin Bush had a rough year. So middle linebacker wasn't inside linebacker wasn't really the strong suit last year. This defense. I don't mind it because it gives depth, and Spillane has given value to this team, so it doesn't. I'm not concerned. I don't mind it being a bad move. I mean, Marcus Allen can play safety and he can play linebacker. He had to do that when we were banged up last year, so I don't mind those two moves. They're tendered. This is the re-sign I really like. Akella Witherspoon, 2-year, $8 million deal, was a stud at the end of the season last year. One of the main reasons why we ended up making that Minnesota game close, because he had like 2 picks on the game. But yep. I like that move a lot. He's corner number 1 for me.
I just really like how he fits in with our defense.
Yeah, I do.
Like looking forward, like what you said at the end of the season, just looking at him, like you could tell, like he's just changed from when he was on the 49ers.
Yeah, I wish he was healthier earlier in the year when we got him from Seattle. I really do wish that because I think it would have made a huge difference. But is what it is. Ended the season on a good note. We got cornerback number 1 back. Right tackle. Chukuma Okorafor, he resigns on a 3-year deal worth $29.25 million, including $20.5 million in the first 2 years. Everybody's going to say, well, this is a bad move because he was on the O-line last year and the O-line sucked. But the thing people don't realize was the tackles weren't really the issue, and the more I watched some highlights from last year, it was really the inside. All right? So Okorafor wasn't bad. Do I think he's getting overpaid? Just a tad bit. I think he's proved worth, but I do think a little bit of this money's a little bit. I mean, if you gave him a $20 million deal, I'd get it. People still say he's overpaid, but I think he's earned $20 million. I mean, he's getting $20.5 million in his first 2 years, so he's worth something. The organization, the front office sees it, so good for them. Our tackles next year will probably be Dan Moore Jr. and Okorafor going into the season. And then the other re-sign we had, what was the other one? Actually, that was it. On re-signings, so not bad when it comes to re-signing. Guys, they proved some value at that. They did release Zach Banner. That they saved $5 million there, and they released Joe Schobert, and that was 9, and they saved 9 points, and they gained 9.7 off the salary cap because Schobert was scheduled to get 9.7, and Banner was scheduled to get 5. So they released them. They saved money there, and it allows them to sign players that we're now going to finally talk about. So we'll start it off. They get much needed help on the interior. They get James Daniels, the guard from Chicago, who is awesome. He played with Mitchell Trubisky. They know each other in and out just a little bit, so that is good. He signs on a 3-year, $26.5 million contract.
Need guys to protect Mitch, so I think these O-line signings hopefully will do the trick.
And so far it's been 2. I expect one more. Maybe not a big one, but maybe for depth. They did tender J.C. Hassenauer. They did something with J.C. Hassenauer. I know that for a fact. But James Daniels, one of the best offensive guards out in the free agency this year. They sign him. So that was amazing. They get a center who can also play guard. So Mason Cole, he signs on a 3-year deal. He's very versatile, so you can put him at guard, you can put him at center. Most likely he will be playing center because you have Kevin Dotson, who can play left guard. I did see something. If it's true, James Daniels could play left guard, which could move Kevin Dotson back to right guard, which is the position he played when he was at Louisiana and was one of the best guards in the country. So there's a chance they might do that, but I see Daniels playing right guard, Cole at center, and Dotson back at left guard, and then tackles at left tackle. You got Dan Moore Jr., who played amazing last year, and Okorafor at right tackle, which makes me a lot better going about the O-line going into this year. Now, the big defensive one, writers in Pittsburgh say that might not happen just because, they might go with the lower signings and not go big. The last big one they did was Miles Jack on a 2-year, $60 million contract, which pairs the former Jacksonville Jaguar up with Devin Bush. And we get even though Jack had an off year last year, we get one of the best middle linebackers in football, which is huge. What do you think about that one?
I think this year for Bush, I think he's 2 years off his ACL injury.
Yes.
This is his year. If he doesn't shine this year, I think his career could possibly end, or it might go to crap because now he's got Miles Jack. So now he's got someone next to him pushing him to be better.
Yep.
And he's 2 years off an injury. This is the year I think Devin Bush will make a statement this year. I think our run defense will 100% improve. Our pass rush will be the same with Highsmith and TJ on both sides. I think it's going to be a good year for our defense.
I think Jack brings in a lot of run defense, and I think Devin will pick some knowledge up from him. It's going to help. It's going to help a lot. This Miles Jack signing, I think, will help for Devin Bush, and it should really help for the run D. That was really bad, even though the Steelers pride themselves on run D. We should be getting Tyson Alulu and Stephon Tuitt back, so that should help the O-line, which hopefully means the running back won't have to we won't have to rely, we wouldn't have to rely on Devin Bush and Miles Jack to stop 5-yard gains. Then the big one. This was on Monday that this was announced. Now, the Steelers didn't announce it, but all the insiders did. Mitchell Trubisky on a 2-year, $14.25 million contract, up to $27 million in incentives. I said they needed a new quarterback because you couldn't go in this. You and I have talked about this. We couldn't go into the season with Mason Rudolph as the starter. We've talked about this. They decided they would go with a guy who sat behind Josh Allen, who was had one of the best offensive coordinators in the league last year in Buffalo. Now the head coach in New York, and it was said that Brian Daboll did want Mitchell Trubisky in New York, so that means a lot. As little as some people might think that value holds, it holds a lot to know that's like, all right, Brian Daboll is rolling into town. That doesn't mean Danny Dimes is going to have his job next year. Like, if Daboll wanted Mitch Trubisky, it's because he probably wanted Trubisky to be a starting quarterback next year because he knows he can run his offense.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that the Bears didn't allow Trubisky to use as much as, and maybe in some appearances in a few blowouts in the preseason, and then that blowout really, especially against New England in the playoffs, was it never really allowed Mitch to use his mobility. And I think Mitch is going to have to, especially in the first few weeks, I think Mitch is going to have to use his mobility.
I feel like once this O-line adjusts, I think that's when the Steelers' offense will really click. Because I think, honestly, the Steelers, they might need, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but we might need to pick up some wide receivers in the draft.
We will get that. I want to get to. So far they've opened up the pocketbook. They've made great signings on the O-line, help with defense. The one guy, actually, I don't think I mentioned was Levi Wallace. They signed Levi Wallace from Buffalo on a 2-year, $8 million deal. Cornerback number 2. That moves Can Sutton down to the slot position. Secondary is good. You got Minka, still waiting on the strong safety. And then you got your 3 good corners, and then you got Mollett to help with so the signing they made has been really, really good. So I got nothing to complain with, and Colbert is going out with a bang. All right.
I think that Levi Wallace sign is very good.
Yeah.
Because, for one, our cornerback, with the loss of Hayden, we have a struggling cornerback core. Now, since we re-signed Akello and picked up Levi, I think it'll be like a little bit of a rebuild, but it'll be nice because it'll be a little bit different now.
Yeah.
Then moving Cam to the slot, he's easily our fastest corner, so that's going to work out pretty well.
Yeah, the moment they re-signed Akello was the moment Joe was not coming back, because he says he will always play the outside corner position. Always.
Where do you think he's going to end up?
Name a team that needs cornerback help.
The Lions. I don't know.
I don't think he'll go to the Lions. I think he won't go to Detroit.
Oh. The Texans.
Yeah, but he won't go to Houston. They just got rid of Deshaun. There's no point.
Oh yeah, that's true.
There's no point. Seattle came to mind because I know they got rid of Bobby Wagner. They traded Russell, but they kept Quandre Diggs. Seattle comes to mind, but I just don't know if Seattle would be... I think Joe's going to go into a contender. I think that's just the way it is. I think Joe's old enough in his career where he's trying to win a Super Bowl. So I don't think he would go to the Lions, and I don't think he'd go to Houston. I don't think he would go to Seattle because I don't think Seattle's going to be a contending team this year. I think they're going to be fighting just to not be last in their division. But chances are that's going to be the case. So
they're in a full rebuild.
Yeah. Even though they re-signed Quandre Diggs, they're in a rebuild. The moment they traded Russ out of town, they're in a rebuild. I don't know. How about Dallas?
I have, honestly, with the loss of Amari Cooper, that's a huge strike in the gut for Dak, I bet. Losing one of his best weapons. Now he's got Michael Gallup. Who else? Michael Gallup.
They franchise tagged Dalton Schultz. But I don't think Joe still has value. And that's the thing. Joe still has value into the league.
Oh, yeah, James Washington. I forgot he went
to
the Cowboys, too.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I think Joe signing with Dallas wouldn't be bad because it pairs him up on the outside with Diggs.
Yeah, that's honestly not a bad signing for Dallas.
Joe still holds a lot of value in the league. Even though he's getting older, he still holds a lot of value. And it's hard for me to see Pitt, even though he said goodbye, even before that, after the Akello re-sign, it's hard for me to see Pittsburgh still signing them because he's going to want to start. He's going to want a lot of money because he's just that good. And he's going to want to play the outside. You got Levi Wallace and you got Akello. I 100% assure you Levi won't... I don't think he signed in Pittsburgh just to sit on the bench. He's a starter. So he said his goodbyes to Pittsburgh. Thank you, Joe Hayden, for all your service. We appreciate the things you did. Even before then, because I still thought they were going to re-sign Akello, even before they announced, they signed Wallace beforehand. I still figured they were going to re-sign Akello. Because the reports on Monday said they were, and I think they did it on Thursday.
that Kello re-sign really changed my perspective on our corner. Because if we didn't on our core, because if we didn't re-sign him, we might have had to start a rebuild of our corner core since we were losing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Joe Hayden might have stayed, but the problem is I think re-signing Kello was smarter because he's younger and he's got time to develop. Unlike Joe.
He's a really good corner. Now, do we have the best secondary in the league? No. But those are really good players that can get some stops. You know, itself on his defense. Yeah, I don't know. What happens to Joe? I hope he finds a place where it works out for him and his family, and he gets his money, gets what he deserves, and he plays on a contending team. So I wish that for Joe.
Yeah, Joe deserves a ring.
Yeah, he does deserve a ring. Ray McLeod, we lose a wide receiver there, along with James Washington and Juju. But they make up for losing the returner and another wide receiver by
Ozalewski, right?
Gunnar
Olszewski, I think it is.
Olszewski, yes, on a 2-year, $4.2 million. I was watching his highlights earlier. He can return a kick. He's good.
Unfortunately, as much as I don't want, he is a good returner. But unfortunately, I think he might be one of our starting wide receivers next year behind Chase and Deontay Johnson. I think he'll be wide receiver 3. He'll be like a Ryan Switzer.
I miss Ryan Switzer still.
I know. You know what I was thinking about him when Ray left. I was like, what if we sign Ryan Switzer?
I still miss Ryan Switzer. I remember him in college. He was so good in college. Well, but they signed Gunnar. He's gonna be. If we can provide him some blocks, I think he's gonna get some good returns for us. So everybody, the Instagram pages that I've seen since I didn't know much about Gunnar, when they signed him, is he's a upgrade over Ray. And he's cheaper than Ray was, I believe. But it works out. We get our return specialist after we lose Ray, but we also lose Washington and Juju.
Juju, it is like a big strike in the gut.
Yeah, let's talk about Juju. Go say what you want to say. I want to find something.
Losing Juju is like a huge strike in the gut to Steelers fans. Everyone loves Juju. You can't not like Juju.
And if you don't,
he's such a nice guy on the field, off the field.
And if you don't like him because of his antics, here's my thing. I never disagreed with him dancing on the logos, and here's why. We live in a day and age where everybody says, be yourself, be who you want to be who you are. He is who he is. He's doing what he wants to do, right? And people are giving him crap for it, and it ticks me off.
As a Steeler for his past 5 years?
Yes.
Every Steelers fan has felt a connection to Juju somehow. He's always had that impact on the field. He's always had that good vibe attitude. Like he's just it just hurts. It just hurts to see him go somewhere else. But, as long as he's happy. But his impact on this team will. Even though when he was injured, his impact was pretty big.
Yeah. And it's
going to suck losing that impact.
It is. And here's the thing. And it hurts when people say...
It really does.
When people hate on him. Because it's just contradictory. Everybody says, be who you want to be who you are. Well, it's contradictory at everything you're saying. If you're giving him flack for dancing.
Yep.
Like, come on.
And I'm not going to lie, I was one of those people who did that back then. But now I'm looking at it, I'm like, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at this point. Because it's football.
Mm-hmm.
There's much more to football than dancing.
Yeah. I think if
And it's just the least of everyone's worries. Why is everyone so pressed anyway?
I mean, look at what he did. What? Wasn't it the year he was drafted? He took that cheap shot on Vontez Burfict. Like, that was gutsy. I think he was a rookie at a time or a second year, and he took that shot right at Vontez Burfict and wasn't scared. Like, that meant a lot to Steelers fans. It's like, hey, piece of your own medicine. Especially what he did to AB in that playoff game.
Yeah, his respect for people like he will be greatly missed. But it's gonna be nice to see him somewhere where he fits in. Hopefully, he does well in Kansas City. I'm hoping him the best. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we move on.
Yeah, and here's the thing: when I think Jacksonville has inflated the wide receiver market.
Oh, no question. Picking up Zay Jones.
And Christian Kirk for the money that they did. I told you. I texted you when you asked. When you asked me, you think we're gonna re-sign Juju? I said no. I said because Jacksonville inflated the wide receiver market by Christian Kirk and Zay Jones money that they aren't necessarily value for. Christian Kirk, he's like a Coraford. Does he deserve? Is he overpaid just a little bit? But does he deserve that money? Yes, he does. Christian Kirk's a good wide receiver. Zay Jones went from Buffalo to Las Vegas and then went to Jacksonville, which he's going to be wide receiver number 3.
It's good to see him get more playing time.
Zay Jones is going to be wide receiver number 3 in Jacksonville. He's going to be behind Marvin Jones Jr. and Christian Kirk.
Did Laviska Shenault get traded?
I think they still have Cheval. I think they still have him.
That's honestly a solid receiving core. And their new coach.
Doug Peterson's going to turn Jacksonville around.
I think Jacksonville's going to have. I think they're going to have a solid season. I think they're going to have a winning season. I think there's a chance they could have a winning season. They upgrade that O-line. Solid offense right there.
I think they're going to get more wins than they did last year. That's for sure.
No question.
Yeah, but I was like, they inflated the wide receiver market. I said Juju's gonna see this and he's gonna go for like, He said in a video that he did for during Christmas, he said he wanted a 4-year deal for I forget how much.
$100 million, I think.
Something like that. I was like, on a 2-year deal, that's the amount of money he's gonna ask for. Like, if you say like, hey, let's cut it down to a 2-year deal or a 3-year. That he's still going to be asking for the same money.
Yeah, that's also a problem with Juju. He's just like he's huge salary. It's like huge part on that. Like
he deserves the money though. Like that's the thing.
He does deserve it, but at the same time, it's eating up a huge chunk of our salary cap.
That would have taken up a huge chunk of the salary. You want to be able to sign like Miles Jack and James Daniels and Trubisky for what you were doing.
So at the most, it had to be done.
I think it did. But
everyone in perspective, every Steelers fan in perspective has to accept that.
Now, and some are happy, some are not.
Mark, in retrospect, it's for the best.
Yeah, but did you hear this? Did you hear the catch about the contract he signed with Kansas City was a 1-year where is it? It was a 1-year $10.25 million deal.
That's ridiculous.
On a 1 year. That
is ridiculous. That is one part that he's asking for too much.
No.
I love Juju, but he's asking for way too much.
On a 1 year, just a little bit, but here's the catch. This is where I think they could have re-signed him and basically gave him the same thing. Or, now I hear they were, they want, Juju wanted to stay, but the money thing was an issue because Juju was gonna get paid this offseason, depending on what team it was, and he had a lot of teams out there for him. But I think you could have gave him a 1-year deal like you could have gave him the same 1-year deal that Kansas City did. Did you hear about the catch?
Uh-huh.
Reports from ESPN and NFL Network. Juju Smith-Schuster signs a 1-year deal, $10.75 million deal with the Chiefs. The truth, it's a 1-year, $3.25 million deal with a whopping $7.5 million in incentives.
That is crazy.
The Steelers could have did that. Juju's not getting $10.75 million. He's got to play to get these incentives. So here's my thing. Pittsburgh could have signed him. They could have. They could have said, hey, before you sign that contract, we'll give you the same deal and you get to stay in Pittsburgh like you guys want. Or we'll give you a $2 million deal. We'll raise that up from $3.25 million to $5 million, and you can get $5 million in incentives.
This is why I think Colbert's got something planned to shock Steelers fans. With not re-signing Juju, that leaves a shit ton of cap space. You know that? That's why I think there is a chance we could sign Tyrann Mathieu.
I want to get to that because that's the next one I want to see. But that's the thing, though. Now you got to add. There's still wide receivers out on the market. Yes, Jarvis Landry, Allen Robinson's off the table. You can sign Odell, but those guys are going to ask for some money. There's a few others too. Then you got to look at the draft. Because I don't think you can go in day one with your 3 wide receivers being Deontay, Chase, and Gunner. I don't think you can do that. But if you would have said to Juju, hey, we'll give you a 1-year, we'll give you just about the same money Kansas City's giving you. We'll give you $5 million for the year, and we'll give you $5 million in incentives. And if Juju doesn't play good this year in Kansas City, he's guaranteed $3.25 million, but there's no guarantee he's getting that $7.5 million in incentives. I think if Pittsburgh would have went to him and said this and this, I think he would have re-signed with Pittsburgh in a heartbeat.
Yeah, obviously Juju was not happy about leaving, but I mean, it is different for him. So I bet he's happy about that.
Yeah, and he gets to play with Mahomes and Tyreek and Kelsey and one of the best
They have
offenses
a
in the league.
disgusting receiving core.
Yeah, and McCold Hardman. I think Pittsburgh could have re-signed him after learning this. I really think they could have. After learning about this deal, and I think Juju gets screwed. Absolutely screwed. Absolutely screwed on this. Without a doubt, absolutely gets screwed on this deal.
I agree.
Pittsburgh could have said, we'll give you $5 million, and we'll give you $5 million in incentives, and I think Juju would have, and this is a similar deal like Kansas City's, Juju would have resigned in a heartbeat.
You know, he knows his worth. He knows that Steelers, he's loved by Steelers fans. I agree with what you said. I think if we gave him a similar contract, I think he would have signed.
Because he's betting a lot on himself, and I know he does that a lot, and it's worked out for him. He's just betting a lot on himself, though. You're going to have to get $7.5 million in incentives. He got less than the 1-year deal, I think, from last year. I think he got a lot. He's guaranteed $3.25 million. I think that was less than the deal than last year's 1-year deal. I think it was. But that's my thoughts on it. That is what it is. But yeah, let's talk about other free agents. Let's talk about free agents that are still on the market that we want to see in Pittsburgh. And you said, hold on. I want to read the text you sent me, and I'm going to tell you what I said back. So tell them who you want.
I want from free agency.
Yeah.
I want Tyrann Mathieu so badly. That backfield would be dirty. Tyrann Mathieu and two top 5 corners in the league. Fitzpatrick and Tyrann Mathieu. Like that's disgusting.
This is
There'd be no fly zone. Period.
This is what you said. You said Juju to the Chiefs. We got to sign Julio now. I said, damn. And I accidentally called you and you said you were out right now. I said, not Julio, the Honey Badger. Here's why. Pittsburgh prides itself on defense, right? Deshaun Watson goes to Cleveland. You got Lamar Jackson, Joe Shiesty. Hold on, not Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty.
We're playing those quarterbacks twice a year. We need
and Deshaun Watson twice a year, right? I'm not giving Trubisky crap. All right, I'm not going to give him any crap. I'm going to believe in him. All right. Now everybody's going to say Mitchell's probably the worst quarterback in this division, right?
As of now, he is. But if he proves himself better, I think he could probably be better than. I think he'd be better than Joe.
I can't. That's the thing. I can't admit myself to him being the worst. I can't. As a Steelers fan, it's like I can't say that he's the worst quarterback in the league when we haven't seen him really play in a starting position in a year. You know,
as much as I want to admit it, as of now, he is the worst. But I think if we give him some time to develop, I think he could be. I think he could be like top 2.
Yeah, but he's got 2 years, so he's got a lot to prove this year. I will say that.
Yep.
Watson's also got a lot to prove this year as well.
That's why I think this NFL season, this upcoming NFL season, is going to be very interesting because we have many players coming back trying to prove themselves. Mm-hmm. It's going to be an interesting season.
And I think officially after the Deshaun Watson's trading, the AFC North is the best division in football.
No question.
Right? You got Baltimore, they're going to come back healthy. Cincinnati just went to a Super Bowl. You got Cleveland and their defense, and then two.
I think the AFC West is dirty as well.
Yeah, the AFC West is really good. And then you have...
The Chargers have easily the best defense in the league, period.
Close to it. And then, all right, then you have 2 running backs. You got Amari Cooper. Then you got Deshaun now in that offensive line. I think people's going to be looking at Pittsburgh's like, they're the worst team in the division based on what happened last year. I think everybody's going to look down on us and say we're the worst team in the division.
But you already know the Steelers feed on that type of stuff.
Yeah. They feed on that hate. They laugh in the face of adversity. It's what they do.
It's what we've been known for years. We've always been the underdogs, and that's what makes us the best franchise in the NFL.
After that loss to Kansas City, right, we get decimated in Kansas City. Everybody thought we were out. All right, we just barely escaped Tennessee, get our asses handed to us by Kansas City, decimate Cleveland in Ben's last game in Hines, then just barely scrape out a win in Baltimore, and at the same time that happened, the Colts choke and lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I still said, after that Minnesota game, knowing what our schedule looked like, I said we could still make the playoffs. And I feel like, is it just me or, I don't remember, but did you say we couldn't?
I had my doubts. I think I was not very hopeful.
I don't think you said that, but you did say you had your doubts. You didn't say it couldn't happen, but you said you had your doubts.
I thought we weren't going to make it. I thought we were, when I heard we had to beat, I heard about the Baltimore game. I'm like, all right, Lamar's not playing, Huntley's in.
And Huntley didn't play bad either. Let's keep that in
mind. Huntley did all he could. He played his heart out.
Yeah.
He put everything he could. He had a solid 5 games upon Lamar's injury. All right? But at the same time, he doesn't have that much experience.
Yeah.
When I heard about that, I was like, all right, we got a chance.
Yeah.
Then I heard about Jaguars Colts, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
We're betting on Trevor Lawrence.
The Colts, in my opinion, were the sleeper pick.
Yeah,
I thought they were gonna go far. I was like, oh hell no. And then I see they have a couple injuries on defense.
you and I were watching the Pittsburgh game. You came over. We were watching the Pittsburgh game, and we kept seeing what we were tied at some point or down maybe a few points, and then you just saw Jacksonville in these hats. And we were like, oh my God. Jacksonville's gonna win the
couldn't
game.
believe my eyes.
Jacksonville's gonna win. You were like, Jacksonville's gonna win the game, or we're gonna blow this. I was like, oh God. And then they scored a touchdown coming out of half, and I was like, oh great.
And then the tie almost happened.
Yes, right? The tie almost happens. And then Huntley's driving them down the field again. I was like, all right, we're done. We're screwed. Sutton gets the pick. And I was like, okay, we got stuff. Freiermuth ties it up. We go into overtime. If Najee doesn't make that catch the season's over. Like that, second down or third down catch, if he doesn't get that, the season's over. He had to grab that out of midair, and Patrick Queen was right there, and he would have picked it off.
Najee is the back Steelers fans have been waiting for a long time. I'm so glad that we drafted him over ETN.
Yeah.
So happy about that.
Mm-hmm. I think. So it's like, all right, we make it. We made it to the playoffs. So it's like, hey, I get one last game to watch Big Ben. That's what I asked for after getting our asses handed to us by Kansas City. One last game in the playoffs for Ben. Okay? That's what I asked for.
You know what? At least Ben ended his career on a playoff game. At least he made it far enough so that way he could call it quits on a good note.
Mm-hmm. I was happy about that. Okay?
It's nice to see.
Yep, happy about that. I was like, all right, stuff's going to change after. All right, Kansas City lost. I was like, great. Stuff's going to change. It's like, I wonder what's the change is going to be. They want, and here's why, and Cleveland, and since he goes on this run, I was like, all right, they beat the Raiders. They beat Tennessee. I didn't think they were going to beat Kansas City, but they came back and they beat Kansas City. And then they were up, then they were leading in the Super Bowl. It's like, oh my God. Cincy's going to do it, aren't they? I was like, oh God. And I said, I didn't want Cincy to win, and I wouldn't vote for the Cincy to win a Super Bowl because they're in the division. But I'd
division rivals.
Yeah, but I'd root. I was like, all right, I'm picking Cincy for Las Vegas, and I'm picking Cincy over Tennessee. I will admit to that. I was like, but I don't want to open up the season on a Thursday night in Cincinnati with a new quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I said that. I said I don't want to open up the season in Cincinnati with a new quarterback. And that makes a lot of sense. You wouldn't want to either, right?
Nope.
Especially if it was going to be Mason or a rookie.
At the same time, I feel like giving Mitch a second chance was awesome. But like, just thinking about Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, you look at those guys, like the things they've been doing in college, phenomenal players, just phenomenal.
I want to speak to that, but here's why we need to sign Tyrann Mathieu, and he needs to be probably the last signing of free agency or one of the last. If you get Tyrann Mathieu back there, the Steelers have the best defense in the NFL.
Possibly.
And if you get
maybe not the best secondary,
no,
but easily the best backfield and the best pass rush in the league.
You got the best pass rush in the league. You got Hayward. You got Watt. You got Hayward. You got Tuitt. If he comes back, Alulu will help with the interior a lot.
I feel like Miles Jack will be the biggest addition to our run defense as well.
Right? So you get Watt, you get Hayward, you get Tuitt, you get Alulu back. Highsmith, I think, is going to have a lot more opportunities coming off the edge now. And then you have Devin Bush if he has a bounce back here. And then Miles Jack. You sign two good corners in Akello and Wallace, and you have Sutton who's going to play the slot. Then you have one of the best safeties in the league in Minka. If you sign Tyrann Mathieu, there's going to be there's still a chance we win the the division. But I think by signing Tyrann Mathieu, there's a bigger chance because it's like, oh God, you facing Pittsburgh now. Pittsburgh's different this year, and I think teams need to realize that. If Tuitt and Alulu comes healthy, and then you have some really good depth at interior line, I think people are gonna look at it. It's like, all right, if Tuitt's back and Alulu's back, and then Hayward's back playing right end, and then TJ's coming off of what he did last year, and then I was like, oh God, Highsmith might have a little bit more opportunities. That's the Pittsburgh defense from 2 years ago. People are going to be...
It's going to be a different... It's going to be...
It's going to be different, and I think teams need to realize that. It's like, okay, that's not the beatable Steelers defense. That's like, if you have Tuitt and Alulu coming back, and I know Alulu was coming off of foot surgery, and Tuitt didn't play last year because he was injured, and also dealing with the death of his brother. Those are, like, Tuitt's a good player. All right, don't get me wrong. He's one of the best in the league in his position, and Alulu is providing his worth is growing when it comes to this. All right, defense, it's growing. Alulu's worth is really, really growing. All right.
Speaking on this O-line, at the same time, I noticed this when I was watching the KC game. I noticed that they knew the KCD line knew Ben couldn't move, right?
Yeah.
So they went straight in. They went the right end and left. The outside linebackers went straight in. They went right. They blitzed right towards Ben because they know he can't move.
Yeah.
Now since we have Mitch, he's able to, like watching his old highlights, he can move.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they can go straight for him.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to scramble and then throw off the scramble. It's going to be. I'm excited. I think we're going to have a good season this year. I think we're a little bit of a sleeper pick in the AFC.
Yeah, and here's why I say this. It's not people's going to the moment Tuitt and Alulu come back and they play really well and they're healthy, and the addition of Miles Jack, and then you have Hayward, and then I think people are going to look at Pittsburgh and it's going to be like, all right, this isn't the team last year. This isn't last year's team.
It's not like the past 20 years we've had Ben.
No.
It's going to be a lot different.
The defense is going to be different from last year because I think they're finally going to stop the run. I think not having Tuitt and Alulu and not being able to stop the run was the Achilles heel of this defense last year. Now you get those guys back, and if they're healthy, they're playing healthy, and they're playing to what they were a few years ago. Tell me how you're going to be able to stop. You really can't run the ball down the throat, right? Then you're going to have to pass. Then Blitzburg, all right? Blitzburg's going to be back next year, all right? Let's get that straight. If nobody thinks they're not going to blitz, Blitzburg's coming back next year. Let's get this very straight, all right? Then you got to worry about the blitz. Then you got to worry about the pressure. Oh, God, then you got to worry about TJ Watt coming off the edge, right?
Honestly, I think we're going to be scary.
Mm-hmm. People need to...
And just the missing touch is Tyrann Mathieu. We signed Tyrann Mathieu. Our season, no question. Our season will be good. No fly zone in the backfield. We're going to have a decent secondary. Best pass rush in the league. Good D-line.
Mm-hmm.
Good run defense. Like, our defense is going to be scary.
They need to sign Tyrann Mathieu. I think not re-signing Juju. And I want to say if
that should have been the click in Colbert's head that we need to sign Tyrann.
Mm-hmm. If that's out of any free agency moves, that needs to be the next one. Right? All right. Lyle Collins, he signs with Cincy, upgraded offensive line. I think TJ's going to have a little bit of issues going against Collins. And I think Cincinnati games are going to be different now since they got Collins and he's going to be protecting Joe Shiesty. I think Cincy games are going to be different now. I'll say that, but yeah.
I'm excited for the classic Pitt Browns Derby. No more Baker. It's going to be a whole different game.
And I'm going to say why I don't think Cleveland's traded Baker yet. I think the NFL is probably going to suspend Watson for a few games.
Possibly.
I think they.
But I don't think Baker's going to play. I don't think Baker's going to play. If Watson gets suspended, I don't think Baker's going to play.
No, I think he will because they traded Case Keenum. You really going to start Jacoby Brissett?
Where did he go?
Case Keenum got traded to Buffalo.
Oh, so he's their backup now.
And the rumors are they're probably going to sign Jacoby Brissett. My question is, Baker Mayfield has provided a lot to Cleveland in the fact of he won. He won in Cleveland. He won a playoff game. He won in Cleveland. That means a lot to Cleveland fans. He was able to win.
Yep. That's one thing that like. Although I am a Baker hater. I'm sorry to say this, but I am a Baker hater. I despise him as a quarterback. He's a funny guy.
I defend Baker in the fact that he won in Cleveland, and that was probably one of the hardest things to do in football.
Yes, I respect him for that, but he needs to get out of there. I think he goes to Indiana.
Yep,
Indy traded him to Indiana, and that's his second chance, really.
Indy needs a quarterback. But I think if Deshaun, what you're going to find out is Deshaun is suspended or not. And I think that's why Cleveland hasn't shipped off Baker yet. Because I think Cleveland's going to want to contend. They got the pieces to contend now, all right? If Deshaun gets suspended, they're not going to wait until week 5 or week 6 to be like, now we got to start winning. They're going to want to win right off the bat. So, yeah. That's why I think they haven't traded Baker yet. No, but they need to sign Tyrann Mathieu. If you have one of the best defenses in the division, you're going to have a strong chance at winning games that people don't think you're going to win. You know? So I think they need to sign Tyrann Mathieu. That needs to be the last move in free agency. Or one of the last.
Yep.
No, it needs to be the next move in free agency. Because I think except for Lyle Collins signing with Cincy, until today, there really hasn't been any big free agency news. There hasn't been any big signings. And if if it does happen and Tyrann signs with the Steelers, the internet's going to explode. Steeler fans are going to go nuts. All right? You and I were...
That might be one of the best trades of the... That'll be top 3, including easily the best trade. I think this free agency was Devontae to Las Vegas. I think that has been the best trade so far.
Yeah, I think the moment they signed Tyrann Mathieu, like, you and I were down in Pittsburgh, right? We were from New York. We went down to Pittsburgh this year. You went down for the Monday night against Chicago, and I went down for the Week 3 matchup against Cincy. My father and I left at 3 a.m, got there at 9. They started tailgating at 9 o'clock in the morning.
When I went, I had a night game, right?
Yeah, you had the night game.
I went out on a walk before the game because my dad went to go meet his friend at a local bar, right? Mm-hmm. Or not a bar, but a restaurant place.
Yeah.
And the streets were packed.
Mm-hmm.
Game night, you see tons of Steelers uniforms, you see tons of Steelers jerseys, Bears jerseys. It's like one big family meetup.
Mm-hmm.
What's so nice about it is it's not like everyone's against each other, you know? Like we respect as Steelers fans, we are the most respectful fans. Everyone looks down upon us. Everyone's like, oh, Steelers fans are the most toxic fans in the NFL. You have not met a Steelers fan that is not respectful. I don't care what anyone says. Steelers fans are the most respectful fans in the NFL.
At some points, I can agree with the toxicity just a little bit. I can agree with that.
There is some toxicity, but the older Steelers fans,
yes, I met a few Steelers fans. They were very, very nice. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. What else there was one more thing I wanted to talk about. Oh,
speaking of respectful fans, let's talk about Cowboys fans. Oh boy, never met a respectful Cowboys fan in my entire life.
Yeah, I know. I live with one. There is one thing I want to talk about, and I wouldn't mind signing if we don't sign Tyrann Mathieu. Keanu O'Neal has said reportedly after going to Dallas, moved to linebacker, he wants to go back and he wants to establish himself as a safety, strong safety, which is what we need if they don't sign Terrell Edmonds or Tyrann Mathieu. I wouldn't mind it. Neal was a good safety in Atlanta, if I can remember correctly. At least I think I do. He was good in Atlanta. So if we don't sign Tyrann Mathieu, or we don't resign, or we don't sign Tyrann, or we don't resign Terrell, I wouldn't mind Keanu O'Neal. I think it would still make it. I'd prefer Tyrann Mathieu, but
I mean, it is what it is. But he is, like I said earlier, he is the missing piece of the puzzle. He is the final piece of the puzzle.
And he brings a lot of intensity, and I think he'd fit right in Pittsburgh.
Yep. That is exactly what I think.
All right. We're going to wrap it up. Next time you'll see us, we'll be talking about the draft and what we think the Steelers will do. I will say this about the draft, and I'm just going to leave it at this. Even though they signed Mr. Trubisky, if Malik Willis drops to 20, don't be shocked if they take him. Don't be shocked. If Malik Willis drops to 20, don't be shocked.
I mean, I would drop. What's his name? We drop. I say we get rid of
Mason.
We pick up Malik. We have two good quarterbacks. And what? Say Malik wins the race between him and Mitch.
No, I don't think he will.
Play a year, or we have him play half.
Everybody's saying that this year there's really no good quarterbacks in this draft, which I think now it comes down to Pickett, Willis, and Corral. And Corral got injured, so it really leaves Pickett and Willis. If Willis is still at 20, I think they take him, and I don't think any Steelers fan should be shocked. But I will leave it at that. And with that being said, thank you all for watching today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And the next time you'll see us, we'll be talking about the draft. Any last thoughts, Dom?
Nope.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. And we will see you on the next one.